The Microaggressions. Part 1. The conflict begins. In the bustling corridors of St. Mary's Hospital, a dedicated black nurse named David worked tirelessly to provide compassionate care to his patients. With years of experience and a deep commitment to his profession, David was well respected by many of his patients and colleagues. However, beneath the surface of his daily routine lay a troubling reality that he could not ignore. Despite his qualifications and expertise, David often found himself on the receiving end of microaggressions, subtle, often unintentional comments or actions that conveyed bias or prejudice. Patients would frequently question his credentials, asking, "Are you sure you're the nurse?" or "I'd like to speak to someone more experienced." These comments, though seemingly innocuous, chipped away at his confidence and made him feel as if he had to constantly prove himself. His colleagues, too, contributed to the atmosphere of microaggressions. Comments about his hair, which he wore in a natural style, often surfaced in casual conversations. "You know, you'd look more professional if you straightened it," one coworker remarked, while another joked, "Are you going to wear that to work?" Such remarks implied that David didn't fit the traditional mold of professionalism, leaving him feeling marginalized and disheartened. One particularly painful incident occurred during a staff meeting when David presented a new patient care initiative he had developed. As he spoke passionately about the benefits of the program, a senior nurse interrupted him, saying, "That's a nice idea, David, but I think we should stick to what we know works." The dismissive tone stung, and David felt the familiar wave of frustration wash over him. It was moments like these that made him question whether he truly belonged in a profession he loved. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of these microaggressions began to take a toll on David's mental and emotional well-being. He found himself questioning his place in the hospital and whether he truly belonged in a profession that he loved. The constant need to navigate these subtle biases left him feeling exhausted, and he knew that something had to change. Part 2. The Act of Defiance. Determined to confront the issue head-on, David decided to take action. He realized that the only way to address the microaggressions he faced was to initiate conversations about diversity and inclusion within the workplace. He believed that education was key to fostering understanding and empathy among his colleagues. David approached his supervisor, a supportive woman named Sarah, with a proposal to organize workshops focused on microaggressions and their impact on the work environment. He wanted to create a safe space for open dialogue, where staff could share their experiences and learn from one another. To his surprise, Sarah was enthusiastic about the idea and encouraged him to move forward with the plan. With the backing of management, David began to plan the workshops. He reached out to colleagues from various departments, inviting them to participate and share their insights. He also gathered resources and materials that would help facilitate discussions about race, bias, and the importance of cultural competency in healthcare. As he prepared for the first workshop, David felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He knew that addressing these sensitive topics would not be easy, but he was committed to fostering a more inclusive environment for everyone. He hoped that by sharing his own experiences, he could inspire others to reflect on their behaviors and attitudes. In the days leading up to the workshop, David encountered a few colleagues who expressed skepticism about the need for such discussions. "Do you really think this is necessary?" one nurse asked, raising an eyebrow. "I mean, we all get along fine." David took a deep breath, knowing that these conversations were crucial for change. "It's not just about getting along," he replied. "It's about understanding each other and recognizing the impact of our words and actions." Part 3. The Turning Point. The day of the workshop arrived, and David stood before a diverse group of colleagues in the hospital's conference room. As he began his presentation, he shared his personal experiences with microaggressions, recounting the moments that had left him feeling marginalized and undervalued. He spoke candidly about the emotional toll these experiences had taken on him, and the importance of recognizing the impact of seemingly small comments. As David shared his story, he noticed a shift in the room. Colleagues who had previously been dismissive began to listen intently, their expressions changing from skepticism to empathy. He encouraged them to reflect on their own behaviors and consider how their words might affect others. "We all have a role to play in creating a supportive environment," he emphasized. "It starts with understanding and acknowledging our biases." During the workshop, David facilitated small group discussions, allowing participants to share their own experiences with microaggressions. One nurse, a white woman named Emily, spoke up about a time she had unintentionally made a comment that offended a colleague. "I remember joking about a coworker's accent, thinking it was harmless," Emily admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "But looking back, I realize how insensitive that was. I never meant to hurt anyone, but I see now how my words could have made them feel less valued." David nodded, appreciating her honesty. "It's important to recognize that our intentions don't always align with the impact of our words," he replied. "We all have room to grow, and acknowledging our mistakes is the first step toward change." As the discussions continued, more colleagues began to share their stories. A male nurse named James spoke about how he had witnessed patients making assumptions about David's qualifications based solely on his race. "I didn't say anything at the time, but I regret not standing up for you," he confessed. "I see now that silence can be just as harmful as the comments themselves." The atmosphere in the room shifted from one of discomfort to one of solidarity. Colleagues began to express their commitment to being more mindful of their language and actions. David felt a sense of hope as he watched the conversations unfold. This was the kind of change he had hoped for, an acknowledgement of past mistakes and a commitment to growth. By the end of the workshop, David felt a renewed sense of purpose. The vulnerability displayed by his colleagues had sparked a deeper understanding of the issues at hand. He encouraged everyone to continue the conversation beyond the workshop, emphasizing that this was just the beginning of a larger movement toward inclusivity. Part 4. Justice Prevails. As a result of David's efforts, the hospital administration took notice of the positive impact of the workshops. They recognized the need for ongoing training programs focused on cultural competency and diversity in healthcare. David was invited to collaborate with the administration to develop a comprehensive training curriculum that would be implemented across the hospital. The new training programs aim to educate all staff members about the importance of recognizing and addressing microaggressions, as well as fostering an inclusive environment for both employees and patients. David's courage to speak out had not only improved the workplace culture, but also empowered other staff members to share their experiences and advocate for change. In the months that followed, David continued to lead workshops and training sessions, each one building on the last. He introduced role-playing exercises that allowed staff to practice responding to microaggressions in real time, helping them develop the skills to address bias when they encountered it. The sessions became increasingly popular, with staff from all departments eager to participate. One day, during a follow-up workshop, a nurse who had previously made comments about David's hair raised her hand. "I want to apologize," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't realize how my words affected you. I've learned so much from these sessions, and I want to do better." The room fell silent, and David felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. This was the kind of change he had hoped for, an acknowledgement of past mistakes and a commitment to growth. As the hospital's culture continued to evolve, David noticed a significant shift in the way colleagues interacted with one another. Conversations about race and bias became more common, and staff members began to hold each other accountable for their words and actions. David felt a sense of pride knowing that he had played a role in fostering this change. One afternoon, while on his break, David sat in the hospital cafeteria, enjoying a moment of quiet reflection. He overheard a group of nurses discussing a recent patient interaction. "I think we need to be more aware of how we communicate with our patients," one nurse said. "I heard someone question a nurse's qualifications the other day, and it made me uncomfortable. We need to do better." David smiled to himself, feeling a sense of fulfillment. The conversations he had initiated were taking root, and the hospital was becoming a place where everyone felt empowered to share their voice. As the months passed, the hospital's administration decided to host a Diversity and Inclusion Day, celebrating the progress made and highlighting the importance of continued efforts toward equity. David was invited to speak at the event, and he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he prepared his remarks. On the day of the event, the auditorium was filled with staff members eager to learn and engage. David took the stage, his heart racing as he looked out at the sea of familiar faces. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady. "I want to share my journey and the importance of recognizing microaggressions in our workplace. It's not just about me, it's about all of us working together to create a culture of respect and understanding." As he spoke, David shared stories of his experiences, the challenges he had faced, and the progress they had made as a team. He emphasized the importance of empathy and the need to continue the conversations they had started. "Change doesn't happen overnight," he said. "But every conversation, every workshop, and every moment of vulnerability contributes to a more inclusive workplace. We have the power to shape our environment, to ensure that every voice is heard and valued.